Hey guys, back to try this daily Blitz arena again. I didn't do too well the last time, blundering like crazy and giving bad commentary, so I didn't upload that one. Let's see if things can go a little bit better this time. We're waiting to get paired for the first time, and I have about an hour to play, so I won't be able to do the whole thing. We're paired against a 2140. Okay, we've got a Roy Lopez, and then he takes. It's interesting. I don't really understand. I know that's a way you can play the Rui, but it just doesn't seem like it can be good to me to go back to a4 and then take on c6. But I guess it stops black from playing f6, which is a normal way to defend this e5 pawn. So maybe that's why they do it. I've got to defend that pawn on d6. How do I do that? Maybe bishop e7, bishop e7, and then if he takes my pawn, I just take his. And shoot, now he's kind of threatening to take my pawn, isn't he? And if I go queen d6, maybe he plays d4. So what about bishop g4, just to stop him from capturing? If I retreat, he's going to play g4 and then grab my pawn, so I have to take here. And then castle. Guess I'd like to play c4 later if I can manage that. He shouldn't take here. He should play bishop h4. And then I want to do something useful with this knight. Maybe go d7 to c5 to e6, and then put it on either f4 or d4. Probably going to have to play f6, but that's okay. It's a crappy pawn structure over here, but he doesn't exactly have a lot of pieces left with which to take advantage of my weak light squares. See if I can get this camera a little bit better. There we go. All right. So I think f4 is now a really good square for the knight because a pawn can't currently come to g3. And if he goes over to h4, then d4 becomes a good square, I think. After knight g6, though, maybe we just trade a bunch of stuff. Knight e2 check, king moves, knight takes g3, knight takes e7 check, king here. Okay, let's try queen f7. This really isn't that great for me because he's going to play c3 now. If I had had more time, I probably could have calculated that and done something different, but it's a blitz game. What's the threat here? I'm not sure there is a threat. I think he just wants to cement his knight on g6. And we want to keep this d3 pawn backwards, and then pile up against it, and that will be our source of counterplay. I like this trade because my knight wasn't very good. Okay, what now? Rook d6. Oh, he's going to play e5. So maybe queen d7. Offer a trade of queens. Might go rook f5. There's also queen a2. I didn't even look at that. But then there's rook takes f6. And queen takes b2. Rook takes h6. It's kind of interesting. I want to try it. Oh, you know what? I can't. After rook f6, queen b2, rook h6. I'm sorry, just rook g6. I can't defend g7. So I have erred again. What about this move? Rook d6. There's no queen e6 check later because I am covering that square. Oh, also the last time I recorded a video, some people were swearing in the chat box, which is another reason I didn't post it. Yeah, that's kind of an issue, but I think I can take and then come back. I shouldn't have played queen takes a2. That was pretty dumb. Got to get the queens off the board at this point because my king is much more vulnerable than his. King h8 to get out of checks. And then rook f8 or g8. Let's go rook g8 first. Try to get him to defend g2. And then queen g6 perhaps. If I do that, he's going to play queen e5 and grab this pawn. So let's try to defend the pawns first. Get a phone call. Gotta finish this game, though, and then I'll probably pause the tournament and pause the video and come back. Maybe rook d7 there was a better move. Really? You can do that? Okay, let's see what his idea is. At some point, I want to go b5 and a4. I'm running out of time, though, so we've got to be careful here. Okay, and I'm going to move much faster than this. Might be able to beat him on time if he keeps playing slowly. It's looking pretty good at this point. There, we got him. All right, I'm going to pause the tournament and the video, and I will be back. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. Let's head back to the tournament. Get another game. Beating a 2140 is definitely a good start. I took quite a downswing the other day, dropping, I don't know, 60, 70 points, something like that. Or maybe I'm being dramatic and it was only 40 or 50 points. But it felt like 100. All right, 2087. We've got a Queen's Gambit declined exchange variation. Interesting. Normally they play h6. This is a little weakening because the dark squared bishop is not on g7. But it could get there without too much trouble. Maybe, though, I'd like to go h4, h5 now. h4, then take the knight, then go h5. Let's just try it. Worst case scenario, I lose yet another blitz game. He goes h5 himself. So now my g5 square is really nice, but I've lost control of the g4 square, which is not great. Wait, you know what? I could take on g6 here. And at least get 3 pawns. How could that be bad? Generally, if you can sacrifice on the king side and expose your opponent's king and trade material equally, it's a good idea. Alrighty, he declines. I could go bishop h7 check, or I could trade on e7 and then play bishop takes h5. I'd rather just play bishop takes h5, though, because if he takes twice on g5, the h-file gets opened up. And I might even have bishop f7 or bishop g6. Or just bishop, actually just bishop takes g4 because I'll be threatening queen h7 checkmate. Bishop takes g4, right? All right, and we are winning against a 2087. This is a really good start. Okay, we'll just shore things up, and we have an extra piece here and an extra pawn. Rook h5 looks interesting. Knight h3. Now I'm threatening rook g5. The rest should be pretty simple. He doesn't have a threat, so let's go over to the h-file. Deliver a check. Let's get rid of this active piece and then get out of the way with tempo. I don't know, g4, g5, g6 is probably a reasonable way to do things. I could also go queen c5. That looks really active. I get there with tempo, hitting the rook on f8, and I'm threatening queen to e7. Actually, that is almost definitely the best move. Okay, so now we have knight e6 check because this bishop on d7 is pinned. And he resigns. Back to the tournament we go. 43rd place, all right. 2 wins so far. I'm sure that's going to change, but I'd like to pick up some rating points in this tournament because I want to get back to 2150 where I was before. $19.55. Trough chess. He leads with c4. I like to try to back into a d-pawn opening, usually against c4. So we have an exchange Slav. And let's try to get the bishop outside the pawn chain and then protect the d-pawn with e6. This is probably a pretty good result from the opening for black. Doesn't look like there should be any problem on the queen side. All right, knight f6 is good. Bishop g5 is met with h6 because he can't go back to h4. And now I have a lot of pressure on d4, so I kind of want to play bishop e4 or bishop g4 and threaten just to take there and then take on d4. But I also want to get castled, so let's do that. I have a dark squared bishop, he doesn't, and that should help me out here. So bishop g4. He goes e3, okay. I think I should probably take the b5 square away from him. And his queen is now stuck defending this knight. And I might as well keep it that way, right? Why not? Make him play g4 if he wants to get out of that. And he doesn't even get the 2 bishops in exchange because he's already given up one of his bishops and because mine has an escape square on h7. All right, so now I should be able to take on f3, hopefully, and take on d4. And I could take on e5, but then he's going to play knight takes d5, which is kind of bad for me, seems like. Huh. Maybe bishop c5 here. Or why don't we just defend things with a rook over here? There's too many things hanging, that's the problem. Maybe this just wasn't a good idea for me. All right, bishop c5 will make it so that there's one less thing hanging. There's no trouble on the e file anymore. And maybe now rook fd8. Just trying to give his queen a hard time. But then he has knight e4. Shoot. So let's take back. Queen g6, bishop e4, queen f5. Queen f5 is interesting. but then b4, knight c2 takes, knight takes a1. No, there's gonna be a knight e7 check there at some point. Arg. Okay, queen d6, knight e7 check. But maybe that check just doesn't do very much. Okay, maybe knight e7 check, king h8, bishop b7. Maybe that's okay, because I'll just play a rook to b8, excuse me, and then hopefully grab this pawn. And this bishop is comfortable down here, I think. I jumped on that pawn without really thinking about the consequences, but sometimes you just have to do that in Blitz. Okay, let's go knight back to e6. No, then there's knight f6 check. So I've got to go knight to c6 instead. But then there's knight e7 check. Arg. Okay, so I have to... I think I have to lose material. All right, let's try to do it in an active way with rook fe8. Maybe if I can get both my rooks down to the second rank, I can start causing problems. There's a pin here now, unless... Oh, but he has knight e3. Darn it. Yeah, knight e3 looks like it wins. So I have rook e3, rook up there. I think I'm just losing material here. Let's try this and see if anything can be made of it. Oh, I did that the wrong way. I meant to play queen takes d1. Not that that would have been much better. All right, that's a big hit. But we get to play a 2082 this time and maybe regain some of those points. I think I'm supposed to play bishop g5 here, isn't that right? But I like to play e3. What about knight e5? If he trades and goes knight g4, you can't play knight g4. You can go knight d7. I might play f4 and then try to attack on the king side. Let's try that. It's an interesting idea. Man, I wish wish I could make this work. Bishop h7, king h7, queen h5, king back, rook f3. Kind of looks like it should work somehow. I guess he can move his f-pawn somewhere and then have f7 for the king, but then I'm going to put my queen maybe on g6 and then the rook on h7, queen on h5, but he'll have queen e8. Okay, so this probably doesn't work. Queen g6, knight c5, b4, knight d3, queen takes e6 check. That kind of looks interesting. Maybe this works. Let's see, if c5, I could go rook h3, and then he loses an important square. Could go bishop d5 after that. All right, rook f7, and now what? Should I save my rook, or should I try to sack that somehow? Knight e2. Knight takes c1, I take back, queen d1 check, rook f1, queen e2, that stinks. I think we have to go rook to d1. Or I could go rook to f1, let him take on b2, then go rook h3. Could also play queen takes c4 to try to protect some things. Knight takes b2. All right, we're going to try rook d1. And now I want to play queen takes... Oh, no, I can't. Let's go bishop to a1. And then if bishop takes b4, I want to go queen takes c4. If we can get him to put a rook on d8, then I'll have e6, e7. Ooh, this knight is just hanging, isn't it? No, not just hanging. He's attacking the rook. Okay, let's go rook to g3. Guard g2, get my rook out of the way. I'm running out of time, but maybe knight b5 to d6 is an idea. And if he gets rid of the knight, then after bishop takes c3, I might be threatening e6 and then some combination of e7 and a capture on g7. Just realized his knight doesn't have anywhere to go. That's interesting. Okay, I could play rook takes g7 check here. And after king takes, well, let's just take back here. All right, we pulled that out somehow. I wonder if it was objectively good or just a decent practical try. Up to 103rd place. I could probably play for 20 more minutes, and then I have to go to work. Challenges VP. All right, well, whatever. He's rated 1500, and he just berserked, so he's probably a smurf. Probably rated a bit higher than 1500. So I may have my hands full with this gentleman. All right, but we're pretty solid here so far. Yeah, of course you should play c4. Where do I want my bishop? Maybe d6. Gives me more control of e5. Okay. Now I'll go bishop c7, and I'll try to play e5 later. Get castled. e5. Okay, let's take on d4. If he takes back with the knight, yeah, then he would have the problem that the c5 pawn might be weak later, and this way he's got the issue that he's got a weak bishop on e3. I'm going to play knight g4, put more pressure on that, and I could put even more pressure on it with bishop to f4. All right, knight takes e3 looks winning to me. Okay. So I can play rook takes f3 check, which looks pretty strong to me. Let's do that. There's no king e2 because of rook e3, and no king e1 because of bishop d2 check or bishop g3 check. All right, let's kind of want to play queen f6, but why give up material if I don't have to? I kind of feel like it has to be winning. Yeah, so he trades. And we're going to go knight takes f6, knight to e4 check. We can go ahead and retreat this guy. So either I lucked out against a player who is on a Smurf account, or he was just kind of going balls to the wall because he was at a rating disadvantage anyway. Oh, I missed rook e2 check. That was kind of silly. All right, let's figure out how to win this. All right, lost on time, no rating change. I can probably play one more game before I head out. Overall, I think things are going pretty well so far. Seemed like white in this game over here could have played bishop takes d6 with a skewer. All right, 1916 is the rating of my last opponent. I want to play this in an ambitious way, but I'm a little bit worried about bishop g5 after knight f6 because I don't have knight e4. So I'm going to expand on the queen side. Actually, this is turning into a King's Indian with reversed colors. d4 here. Knight e4 shouldn't be good because I kind of am going to end up with a passed pawn on the d file no matter what here, and his bishop just got blocked. Okay, bishop to d6. We'll get castled. Maybe play f5 now that I don't have a kingside knight. Bishop c7 maybe wasn't so great. I was planning on putting the bishop on b6, but if I want to put it on that diagonal, I probably should just put the bishop on c5 to begin with. And I said what he was doing wasn't so great, but suddenly I have this isolated queen pawn. Although it's, I mean, so far he doesn't have a way to win it, which makes it strong. Okay, let's put this bishop on b6. Do something with the light squared bishop. Maybe go to e6 and then c4 if he lets me. Bishop to c4. Should be reasonable on this diagonal. I want to improve my queen somehow. Maybe take the space he left behind with queen g5, but he's going to play f4, so why help him with that? Maybe queen d6. Alright, let's go rook e8 so that I can play knight e5 if he doesn't play f4, and so that I'm keeping an eye on his pawns if he does. And queen d6 is possible, so is queen to e7. Queen e7 is interesting. I really want to force this knight off of this square, because then I can play d3 check, and things might get good for me. As usual, I'm a minute behind on the clock, so I'm going to have to start playing faster. And I know I always say that and then don't, so I'm sure I won't in this case either. Bishop to b6, to b5. I kind of would like to play knight b4, even if it means I end up with two more isolated pawns. Because I really want him off of the d3 square. Yeah, now I'm hitting a2. He has to deal with that. So he does, and unpins his knight in the process. What about rook c6? He's going to go e5. Well, then what about rook to c3? That way, if he takes, he fixes my entire pawn structure for me. I can play b takes c3. Oops, messed up my camera again. Wouldn't want you guys to be without my cave troll visage. Technically threatening the knight at this point. Alrighty. And we can move my rook over to the c or d file. His knight's not threatening anything, which is one thing that's great about these bishops. Rook d8 might threaten d3. Not really. So let's put the rook on c8. I'll play f6 later. If the knight goes back to f3, I think I can just take on e4. Yeah, this pawn structure worked out reasonably well. So I'd be willing to try it again in the future. Am I winning his e4 pawn? I think I might be. I think we have to trade, though. But b5's coming if he doesn't play a4. If I had thought that through, maybe bishop d6 was a better way to handle that. But we get b4 now. I don't mind if he sits on c4. Do I? I might. I'm going to go rook a8. I think I'm just in time to start grabbing pawns before he gets a light square blockade. Like if he goes rook c2 now, I have d3, and he should be in big trouble. Maybe d3 anyway. Threatening rook takes a2, so he just takes care of business down there. There we go. All right, pretty good final game. We got back above 2130. Thank you for watching. I hope to be able to play the entirety of one of these tournaments coming up soon, but just been kind of busy recently. Take care, everybody.